drinking a cold Budweiser or two, getting $1 million suntan, all for the cheapest seat in the house. I tell you, Arnie, we're going to have to turn up. I can hardly hear you. Here's the Colorado lineup for today. Eric Young at second base. Quentin McCracken in left. Ellis Burks in center. Larry Walker in right. Andres Galarraga at first. Vinny Castillo at third. Jeff Reed at second. Nafi Perez at short. And Mark Thompson will be on the hill. The Pepsi defense for the Chicago Cubs will be Brent Brown in left, Brian McRae in center, and Sammy Sosa in right. Ori, Dunston, Sandberg, and Grace around the infield, service catching. And Turk Wendell, who has been absolutely sensational this spring, will be on the hill. The umpires are Jim Quick behind the plate, Ed Montague at one base, and Dana DeMuth at the other. Three umpires. Ernie Banks is here today. He's down to the field right now. Not with the umpires as the official starting lineups. There he is, Ernie Banks. Let's play two. Who's the young man with him? I can't hear you.
The gentleman by the name of Ryan Rosenberg. He's with the WGN sponsors. And this is Sponsors Weekend, where WGN shows its appreciation to all of those fine folks who help us put on the broadcast. They're having a wonderful time. The weather out here has just been spectacular. Anywhere between 80 and 85 degrees. So a couple days of golf, a couple of banquets, a cocktail party or two, and a big league baseball game today. And the sponsors are a group of very happy men and women.
You know, looking at Ernie Banks out on the mound with the youngsters throwing out the first pitch. Hey, pretty good, too. I mean, look, Ernie, he throws one. Also, the kid matched him. Ernie was mentioning to me that the Mad Monk, Russ Meyer, formerly pitched for the Cubs, for the Phillies, an outstanding character, watches these games in LaSalle, Peru. So to the Mad Monk, I'm probably one guy who can still remember when the manager, Eddie Sawyer, took you out of a ball game, you threw the rosin bag high in the air with walking for your dugout, and the rosin bag came down right on top of the head, top of your head. One of the memorable feats of baseball. All right, what do you got to say?
Well, what I have to say is Turk Wendell, Harry, and that's what just about everybody has been saying in the Cubs camp. Turk Wendell has been a revelation this spring because here's a man who last year had 70 appearances, and he was brilliant out of the bullpen. The record, granted, was just 4-5, but you don't measure relief pitchers on their record. He had 18 saves, and he was a guy who really wasn't looked at as their premier closer, and yet he did more than a respectable job in that role. He had a 2.84 ERA, and the 70 appearances marked him as being very durable. But when Kevin Tapani went down this year, Jim Riggleman realized that he needed someone to plug a hole in that starting rotation and decided that perhaps Turk Wendell would be equal to the task. And all he's done has been the most impressive pitcher by far, giving up nothing in 2 previous outings. So you talk about a man taking advantage of a situation presented to him. That epitomizes Turk Wendell here in camp 1997 for the Cubs. And Harry, he just might force his way into this starting rotation.
I certainly agree with you, and I agree with everything you said about him, because he's been around now. The pressure of the game won't have an effect on him. The Cubs are taking the field. Sammy Sosa, the pride of Mesa. Who's hot in the National League? Sammy Sosa, 9 hits. 5 home runs, 1 triple, 1 double. 13 RBIs, hitting .529. You know, as Steve mentioned, this is the sponsors day, and Bill Wills of Wills and Associates, along with Gina Borson, who's the wife of Bill Borson, who was here a week ago, and Gina, a very, very attractive employee of WGN TV, and Sidney Wells are representing the sponsors. Look at it, here they all. mention some of their names as we go along. There are the sponsors in attendance here today. They've had a wonderful weekend, as have some of us. We've met a lot of very attractive people. Among them, Whitey Pearson of WGN, Tony Colosimo of WGN TV, Jim Donald, the Executive Vice President of Tribune Media Operations, Dennis Fitzsimon, President of Tribune Television, and Sean Sheehan, Vice President from the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., Peter Walker, the VP General Manager of WGN, Mark Bowe, Jake Finley, Jim Gilmore, Patty Golden, Terry Pearson, Marissa Rudman, and Jim Zerwick. How about that? All said in one breath. And we took care of about 12 of them. The Colorado Rockies always have been a hitting team, especially in the home runs department. They had 221 a year ago, a team batting average of 287. Extra base hits, 555, better than a third. And they were first in the National League in every one of those categories. Here's Harry Young. He's fast.
Young is
second baseman.
Young is a good man to keep off base. He stole 53 bases last year when he hit 324.
Wendell's pitch. In there, a strike ball. Wendell has a palm ball, a fork ball, right? Besides a slider and a good change and a fastball.
Well, really, Harry, he's really a two-pitch pitcher at this point. He throws a fastball and a slider, and Phil Regan is working on a straight change, what they call a circle change, and that would be the third pitch that Turk has to add if he's going to be a successful starter.
Two-man pitch foul out of play, and it's 2-2.
Right now, he's basically a one-speed pitcher, and that's fine out of the bullpen, but when you're facing guys 3 and 4 times in the starting rotation, you start getting into the 6th, 7th, or 8th innings, you're going to have a little something off speed to keep them off balance.
Al and Kathy Drape from Fort Smith, Arkansas. Here's a high pop foul out of play into the stand. They're at, we wish them a quick recovery there at Sparks Hospital in Fort Smith, Arkansas. Tom Flynn, George Jacob, Mike Ranella, and brother Sam Ranella, all distributors of Anheuser-Busch, are among the sponsors here today. As is a senator from the state of Indiana, Dan Coates, who we'll have up to exchange a few words with in a few moments.
Be nice if Turk would throw that fastball in on the hands of Young. He's tried to get the ball out away from him a couple times. You look at Don Baylor, the skipper of the Rockies. Let's see if he tries to jam Young with this one.
Now the pitch. A bouncing ball, foul. Count stays. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Speaking of hitting, as we were about the Colorado Ball Club, it's small wonder when the manager is Don Baylor, who's a heck of a hitter himself, and besides got hit more than anybody else in baseball by the opposing pitcher. He almost chased it. Did he? They appeal. No. Ball 3.
The problem with the Rockies is not hitting. It's hitting on the road, because last year on the road they were 28 and 53. So they took advantage of their home cooking by dominating teams in Colorado, but when they went on the road, they were easy to beat.
Now the pitch swung, foul back again. The count stays full, 3-2. Eric Young, very speedy leadoff man. Well, you see where they're touting Greg Maddux as a $10 million man a year when he talks contract next season. His contract's up for this year at the end of the season. The pitch, high fly ball, changed up a little bit. Grant Brown under it, loses it, and it drops for a base hit. Don't they put on sunglasses? He seems to have them on, but he lost that pop fly in the sun.
Well, we've talked about the high skies here in Mesa, and today there's not a cloud in the sky, which makes it much more difficult to see. Every game you see from Mesa, you'll see something like this happen, and unfortunately, it happened to Brant Brown on the first play. He pulls up, he lost sight of it, and you have to angle your body to get the ball out of the way of the sun, and he wasn't able to do it, and it cost him a double.
From Ameritech, Marilyn Lewinfield. And from Discovery Card, Bill Walsh are here among our sponsors. We got a lot of them. Here's a pitch high. You know, Roger Clemens, in his first start of the season, was really knocked around. He has a contract calling for $8 million. Now, one man, one pitcher, Roger Clemens, at $8 million a year, makes as much money as the entire ball club of Pittsburgh, who, by the way, beat the White Sox 9-8 yesterday. And one player alone of the White Sox, Albert Bell, makes $11 million a year, which is $4 million more than the entire team that beat the White Sox yesterday. But it's early. Here's a pitch outside. Ball 2. Claudia Dykstetter, Lisa McDonald, and David Mitchell are here from DDB Needham, a very prominent advertising agency.
You're doing good, that Harry. If you get through with those 3 or 4 pages, we got about 3 or 4 more for you.
I'll finish them. Never fear, Harry's here. Strike call. And the count, 3 balls and a strike. Nobody out, a runner at second. A terrible way to start a ball game. You make the leadoff man pop up, and it pops up into a double. As Brant Brown lost in the sun. The pitch. Ground ball up the middle. Base hit. Dunson dove for it, couldn't reach it. And McCracken singles the center. And the Rockies, just like that, lead 1-0.
Quentin McCracken's a little too good to be called the 4th outfielder. They like to call him outfielder number 3.5, and he's going to get a lot of play. Dante Bichette had knee surgery. He's not quite ready to go yet, but they expect him ready on opening day. And if they need to give a day off to any one of their 3 outfielders, Burks, Walker, or Bichette, Quentin McCracken is going to play and play a lot. He had a great year last year. He's a good-looking young player, and he drove in the first Rocky run.
So it's 1-0 in favor of the Rockies, and here's Ellis Burks, who had a tremendous year a year ago. He shortened up his hits to bunt.
Give you an idea how good the year was, Harry. Last year he had over 200 hits, 40 home runs, 30 stolen bases. Only the second time one man has done that in the history of the game. The only other man, Henry Aaron, in 1963.
What's his contract cost for? $10 million a year?
More than yours and mine.
Times at 50. Here's a high fly ball. Ori chasing it near the stand, and it's foul out of play. Boy, oh boy, what a crowd. The Cubs record this season in the new ballpark is over 9,000. Today, the ballpark's capacity is going to be taxed. It looks like well over 12,000 here. What a scene. Looking out over the San Jacinto Mountains, isn't it? Isn't that those mountains? San Jacinto?
You mean the ones out there?
Yeah.
I just think they're mountains. I don't know.
Oh, you see how little you know about your own town? It's foul out of play.
I like it better today, Harry, without the snow on them that we had last week, though.
Boy, oh boy. That must be the San Jacinto Mountains, because that's the only name of mountains I know.
Well, I know the Lost Dutchman Mine is in one of those. And after the game, we should search for it.
Hey, Arnie just confirmed my name for those mountains. It is San Jacinto. Throw to first. Bill Callis and his son Johnny of Elmhurst Dodge are here. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Runner at first. 1-0 Rockies. Ellis Burks. Fastball high.
Burks credits the White Sox with giving him an opportunity to get himself back into baseball. He was hurt with the Red Sox in '92. Ron Schuler gave an opportunity to come to the White Sox, where he had a big year. later signing a big free agent contract with the Rockies, and that's where he stayed. Burks is some player both offensively and defensively, and he'll shift to center field this year.
Now the pitch, here it is. Struck, swings and misses, and they throw him out. They struck him out and they threw him out. Burks goes out swinging, and McCracken is out trying to steal service to Dunston.
Well, this might bode well for the coming season. Scott Service comes up firing, and he cuts down a pretty good base runner. As Quentin McCracken is cut down stealing. Watch it again, Sean Dunston. And the ball waiting for McCracken to arrive, and he'll be singing the next song in a higher voice.
What do you mean by that?
Well, that tag wasn't on the front leg.
Here's the pitch, and there's a fair ball down the right field line, not hit hard, but perfectly placed. And Larry Walker trying for second, and he makes it. Walker doubles down the right field line.
Walker's only hitting .563 coming in, so Larry Walker, coming off yet another injury-plagued year, is hitting everything in sight here in Arizona. This one down the line between Mark Grace and the bag, caroms around the outfield. Sosa makes it close at second base, but the throw goes awry, and Walker in at second. Larry Walker gives this lineup balance. They've got all kind of right-handed bombers, and he's the one powerful left-handed stick in the middle of a lot of right-handed power.
And every time he gets on, he's got a home run threat following him. Andres Galarraga is the hitter. 47 out of the ballpark a year ago. Remember, before they were a major league team in Denver, they always used to talk about all the home runs that were hit there. They were hit by minor leaguers. Now that same area produces a lot of major league home runs. The pitch. Ground ball. Nice play by Ori to throw the first to retire the side. So, 1 run. 3 hits. No errors. 1 left. We go to the bottom of the first. 1-0. Rockies. And Brown. Ori, Service, and Wendell. And the defense for the Rockies, McCracken and left, Burks in center, Walker in right, Castilla, Perez, Young, and Galarraga, Thompson pitching, and Jeff Reed from Peoria catching. And McRae takes the first pitch over the outside corner for a strike call. 1-0 Rockies. Mark Thompson on the hill. Curveball outside.
There's a look at Mark Thompson, who's far from overpowering in this spring. He's on for the second time. Last year, a decent year for a young pitcher, 9-11, but the ERA up there at 5.30 in 28 starts.
Here's a high pop fly. Why don't they lose it in the sun? They almost did. One away as the third baseman Castillo made the catch after struggling under the ball.
Well, you see the difference, Harry, as you look at Vinny Castilla, is that he's from Mexico, as opposed to Brant Brown, who probably hasn't seen quite as much sun as we see here. So Castilla stayed with it and made the play.
You know, you've had a couple of pretty good lines so far during the game, but let me tell you one I read the other day. Joe Gilmartin of the Arizona Republic. Listen to this. The Los Angeles Angels now are the Anaheim Angels. They used to be owned by a cowboy. Now they're owned by a mouse. Disney Mickey Mouse, you get it?
I do.
Okay, all right.
And they got their first win yesterday after going 0-9, and the mouse has got to be very happy, as is the manager, Terry Collins.
Here's Sandberg fouling the pitch off. 1 ball, 1 strike. We'll be talking with the Cub fine manager, Jimmy Riggleman, during the next inning. He's down the dugout. We'll throw some questions to him. Here's a pitch high. Terry Monroe, president of Terry Monroe GMC, and Terry Darcy, president of the RC GMC Trust, and Rick Hobart, a guest The Darcys are on hand with all the sponsors, as are Herb Bias, Ed Schmidt Jr., and Stan Dressler of McDonald. One out, nobody on. Sandberg, ground ball, should be fielded. It is. Perez, 2 out.
Played golf with Terry Monroe, and he says that there's a huge Cub fan of over 70 years, Frank Queenie Burnaby, looking on in Dalzell, Illinois. Big fan of you, Harry, also.
Larry Monroe, who's in charge of the Whiteside farm system, is out here scouting the ball clubs also. No relation, but another Monroe, Larry Monroe. 2 out. Here's Mark Grace. Well, what else is new? Grace is hitting around 297 this spring. Whether it's spring or fall, or the middle of the season, late in the season, early in the season, Grace always seems to be hitting 300. When you talk a pure 300 hitter, you're referring to Grace. There's a pitch low. Well, from Pepsi-Cola, P.J. McCarthy Jr. and John Vale are here. Pitch low. From Canon, USA, Rich Mengler and Mike Crabella, Midwest Regional Manager. And they're here from Southwest Airlines. And Graves gets the base on ball. And here is Sammy Sosa. He promised to sell me a piece of the Dominican Republic whenever I can add up enough money to talk to him about it. Look at this guy. Galarraga 47, Bonds 42, and Sheffield 42. Hunley 41, and Sosa, who's hurt in August and missed the rest of the year with 40. He was a cinch to get over the 50 mark. There's a pitch a little bit high.
You get the ball down to Sammy, and of course they tell pitchers to keep the ball down. If you throw it between the knee and the calf, Sammy will hit it as far as anybody in this game. So let's see if Thompson throws one inner half and down there.
He started to swing, the pitch was low, he went around, and the count is evened up at a ball and a strike. Patty Creasha with her guest Bill Creasha, along with Lisa Hammond and Dave Hammond. Guests of Dave's guests of Lisa Hammond. There's a high pop foul back. Boy, are these sponsors allowed to bring their companions with them?
Well, Harry, as supportive as they have been over the years, they felt that this was just a real nice way to thank them for that.
Well, they're probably going to get married the next week or so.
I don't think there's any doubt about that.
1 ball, 2 strikes. Struck him out, fouled out. And Thompson breezes through the first. So hits, no runs, 1 left. At the end of 1, the Rockies won, the Cubs nothing. 1 away. Hey, what's your feeling when these fly balls, you got so many guys fighting for that left field position? I know how they must feel when they lose a ball in the sun. What does the manager think about?
Well, Harry, you know, this is about my 6th spring training out here in Arizona, and I just see this happen so often. For some reason, you know, I never played the outfield myself too much, but and certainly never in Arizona. And it's just a tough place to play it. Guys lose fly balls out here routinely, and experienced guys as well as the young guys.
You know, the only other outfield I've heard referred to as so tough to play is the outfield at Wrigley Field and left and right.
Yeah, you're right. It's very tough. And, you know, for some different reasons in Wrigley, you know, that wall is so hard that guys are a little concerned about it there in Wrigley because it's hidden by those vines, but it's extremely hard. Out here, though, it's just, you know, there's not many clouds. It's a very high sky, and the sun is very bright. It's just a tough outfield to play in Arizona.
Well, I know Steve's got some questions to ask you, but I got one, too. As of right now, how do you feel about the team's chances in the Central Division?
Well, I feel good about our chances, Harry. like any ball club, it depends on your pitching, and I'm a little concerned about Tapani's situation. So either Kevin Tapani's going to have to be a factor for us, or one of these young guys is going to take the opportunity and step up, take advantage of this opportunity and step up and do a good job as a starting pitcher. It's, you know, a Steve Stone type of guy would have been, his mouth would have been watering over an opportunity like this as a young pitcher. They don't come along that often, and you've got to take advantage of it when they're there.
Reed gets a base on balls with one away.
Well, Jimmy, I think you have to be mighty happy when you look out on the mound, at least the first couple outings, and what Turk Wendell has accomplished. And Harry and I were talking about Turk before, and we both felt that he probably will have to come up with that third pitch, that changeup, if he is indeed going to start. But just for going out and showing no fear, you'd have to say that Turk has taken the first step toward earning a spot.
That's definitely true, Steve. He's a guy that I'm very confident whenever Turk has the ball. I know we're getting 100% effort and concentration, and he's just such a gamer, and he can be so valuable to us in many ways. But he is certainly leading the way here on our staff here in spring training and trying to nail down one of these spots.
So the runner at first, one out. Nafy Perez, the young shortstop's the hitter. You know, Jim, I've heard so much from people with other organizations over the last 2-3 years about Jim Ory, about Kevin Ory, and I expect everybody with the Cub organization to talk about them. But when you hear it from other teams, you got to feel it's the real stuff. The kid is a chance to be a good major league ball player.
Well, that's very true. And, you know, Harry, I was in player development for about 10 years. And when I gave an opinion about a player, I wanted it to be respected and people to listen to it. So when our player development people tell me about players in our organization like a Kerry Wood and Kieschnick and Brown and Kevin Ory and these guys, I believe them. You know, I haven't seen them play as much as they have, but I firmly believe that this guy's going to be a good major league ball player. It might not necessarily happen by April 1 or May 1, but we feel that somewhere in '97 here, he's going to be a good player for us.
Here's a foul ball. Down to play to the left. Well, let's see now. The way I figure it, you got only 2 problems. With a whole season to go, you should have a very easy year.
Just 2 problems, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think that, you know, I don't really look at anything as a problem. I look at them as challenges, but certainly everybody in our division is a challenge. You know, we've got a division that for some reason people talk about it as a weak division, and I don't believe that at all. I look at what St. Louis did last year. Overall, the division, the winning percentage in the division was high. As compared to the other divisions, it was right there, and then all of a sudden, the Central Division sweeps the Western Division in the playoffs and takes Atlanta to 7 games in the playoffs. So I think it's a strong division. Houston and Cincinnati, good ball clubs. I think we're a good ball club. So I think
Base hit in the right field on the hit and run. Here's Sammy's throw. Almost out. Safe. He got back on the bag and fell off for a moment before Ory could tag him. He got back there safely, and the Rockies have runners at first and third.
We'll keep our eye on Jeff Reed, who's not known as a speed burner, but it's a hit and run, and he's trying to outrun the arm of Sammy Sosa. It's a very good throw to third base. Reed overslides the bag, but comes back and hooks it. Sammy puts the ball right on the money, but the call by Dana DeMuth is he's safe. And Nafy Perez is trying to find a spot in the infield, and the Rockies figure that this is the year the youngster will either play second or short, depending on what happens to Weiss and Young.
Here's the pitcher, Mark Thompson. Curveball a little bit outside. Jim, nothing wrong with Sammy's bat. There's nothing wrong with Sammy's arm, as he proved on that one.
Yeah, he threw that ball very well. I'm hooked up here with you. I might have to go out and argue that call if I wasn't hooked up to you, but I guess I'd have been wrong. The replays probably showed that he was in there.
Does that prove the umpires are always right?
Just about always. We might get a chance to see Sammy throw again here.
Watch his play. Sammy catches it. Here's the throw to the plate. Whoa! He goes back to third. Was that a one-bound strike in the service? The runners stay at first and third with 2 away.
Well, Sammy's exhibiting that great arm, and more important than that for Sosa, the last couple of years, he's been accurate more times than not. This is a pinpoint throw to Scott's service. Jeff Reed is not going anywhere. He just wants to force Sammy to throw it. He doesn't possess that kind of speed. And Sammy's made an excellent throw to third, and now an excellent throw home.
You know, Jimmy, we don't want to keep you from your team too long. I know that you want to get back to running this ball game.
No, that's all right, Harry. That's all right. I'm enjoying this. This is interesting to hear you guys' comments, and you're right on tune with everything, of course. But it's a good little ball player right up here. This is Kevin Young, or Eric Young, excuse me. He is really a spark at the top of this lineup and has made himself a better defensive player and a clutch player. He's not in a regular season. You don't like to see a guy like this come up in this situation.
You know, Jim, when he hurt himself last year and they sent him to the minor leagues, he couldn't use his one hand. So they had him just fielding with his left hand, and that's all he did for about 3 or 4 weeks, and it really improved his infielding.
Yeah, I saw this guy in the minor leagues, and he was a guy that was all bat and not much glove, and all of a sudden now he's a pretty good defensive player as well as a good hitter.
Apparently he's got a sharp fuse too. That pitch is high and inside, and he was taking a long look at Turk Wendell.
Yeah, well, you know, obviously Turk's trying to throw strikes. He's not trying to hit anybody, so, you know, hitters get a little sensitive about that sometimes, but that's just part of the game.
Popped the foul out of play. You know, I was amazed to read that the Dodgers have had no starting pitcher who throws left-handed for 591 straight years. Straight games.
Straight games, yeah. And the Cubs are right there with
the 24th of 92. And the Cubs, oh, they got him picked off first. Better hurry up and tag him, they do. The run will not count. So, it is no run, one hit, no error, one left. And Sammy Sosa's arm very prominent in the inning. And we go in the bottom of the second, 1-0, Rockies. Up 1-0. Jim Riggleman, there's Darnell Cole, who's replaced Galarraga at first base with the Rockies. We have Jim Riggleman with us down on the field talking. I want you to know, Jim, while you're with us, we definitely will not second guess you.
Okay, that's a bargain. I'll take that. I'm going to stay with you all the time then.
Yeah. Well, now, wait a minute. We'll have to change my role. Hey, we have a senator with us in the booth now. And we're going to talk to, we'll talk to Dan Coates in a half inning or so. Here's Sean Dunston leading it off. I heard you complimenting Dunston on his throw to the plate.
Yeah, actually that rundown play, the rundown play where he ran the guy down in, to finish that last inning is something that we work on a lot in the mornings in our fundamentals. It's one of the situations we set up, and he executed it perfectly.
You heard me say hurry up, didn't you?
Yeah.
All right, Dunston. One thing about whoa, he swings and he misses a curveball. You know, funny thing, he looks so bad on that curveball. Dunston's known as a good curveball hitter.
He's a good curveball hitter in the strike zone, Harry. Anytime you throw a breaking ball in the strike zone, Sean will hit it down the left field line. But occasionally he expands that strike zone and has some problems.
There's a high fly ball. Left fielder coming in, shading his eyes, no doubt about it. Makes the catch. So McCracken retires Dunston.
Jim, are you going to go with 4 starting pitchers because you have 4 days off for the first 17 of the season? I mean, would it make more sense now that you're scuffling as far as the starting rotation is concerned to think about a 4-man rotation early?
Yeah, you know, we're definitely thinking about it, but if Turk Wendell is one of our starters and Kevin Foster continues to throw well, then we likely would go with 5. The thing about going with 4 is our number 1 guy on the staff, who would probably go opening day, is not real comfortable on 3 days rest, so I really hesitate to pitch him on 3 days rest, so it would mean that he wouldn't pitch the opening game of the season. So that throws a little snag in it. I would say right now we're more likely to go
Grant Brown lined to single to center. Takes second. I think the ball was bobbled out there. And he's on second with a base hit.
We've seen a lot of missed plays in center field, and Ellis Burks is charged with an error. Grant Brown continues his fine springtime hitting, and you see this one bounce up and bite Burks. And Brown hustling into second base. That's good heads-up base running, not taking anything for granted. And all you young players, never concede a single. Round that bag aggressively, and more times than not, if there's a misplay, you'll be standing on second base representing a run.
Kevin Ory is the hitter with a runner at second base. 1 out. Hot shot on the ground. Bounces up. Perez fields it. Throws him out. That ball almost hopped over Perez's shoulder.
You can tell why they love Nefi Perez at shortstop. Take a look at this hop and take a look at the hands on Perez. The youngster stays right with it. This one easily could have been in center field, but Perez makes the play. He's rated as the best defensive infielder with the best arm in the entire Colorado system.
Scott Service comes up to the plate. I was interested in reading your comments about Service as a potential manager of the ball club, Jim.
Yeah, I think I think that's probably something that may be in his future. He's, you know, he gives the game a lot of thought. He gets the most out of his abilities, and you know, he's really so tied in with those pitchers, and that's where the games are won and lost. And I think a lot of ex-catchers become good managers, and he's going to be a good candidate.
Well, he can tie up the ball game right here with a base hit. He's been hitting the ball rather well. Jim, thanks so much. Now we'll go back to second guessing.
Yeah, okay. I think I'm going to stay on here and listen for a while. Thanks, Harry. Thanks, Steve.
All right,
Okay,
bye-bye. The pitch. Ground ball, too short. He fumbles or juggles him and throws him out. So, no run. 1 hit, 1 error, 1 left. At the end of 2, 1-0 Rocky. President of the Crystal Lake Chrysler Plymouth dealers, and Bruce Rosenberg, who's a guest of Gary, and John and Anna Kohut are here, and that completes the list of sponsors we have here today.
And birthday greetings to Tiffany Imke in Pontiac, Illinois.
And Dan Coates, senator from the state of Indiana. There's a base hit. Eric Young singles the center. He rounds first, but he goes back. And so, Young is on. Well, Dan, I know you're not only a fine senator, I know you're a great baseball fan, and I also read that you're not going to run for re-election.
Well, you know, Harry came out here thinking that there might be a spot open at third base, but this guy, Kevin Ory, who's an IU grad, Indiana University, not grad, but he played ball there, and he's finishing his schooling. Looks like an awful good prospect at third base. So that's closed. Then I thought, well, maybe shortstop. And then they signed Dunston, so that's closed. So now I'm
How
up
come
in
you never thought about pitching?
Well,
Steve Stone's available.
I think my arm would be good for about 2 tosses, but I thought, well, maybe I could get up here in the broadcast booth,
Yeah.
do a little interview, and then they just hire Josh Lewin here, so that closes that out. So I kind of shut out, you know, people in my business, we need a backup business because you never know how long you're going to be there.
People in our business also.
Yeah, right.
I guess that's true.
You know, Dan, Senator, I guess I should
No,
say.
Dan.
Dan's my friend. Dan, some disturbing things out of the nation's capital in recent weeks. As a matter of fact, throughout this administration.
Yeah, it's really disappointing. This whole money game has just totally gotten out of hand. I think people like to think of the White House as a place that rises above politics, that is not used as a place to collect campaign donations, to run a political operation. This whole thing with the Lincoln bedroom and the deposited checks and so forth is really pretty unseemly, and I hope we can clear that up, put a stop to it, because that's not what the office of the president ought to be used for, and that's not what the White House ought to be used for.
Here's a pitch high. McCracken.
In the meantime, though, with all the problems in Washington, here we are on a picture-perfect day. in Arizona. Mountains in the background, the most beautiful new ballpark I think I've ever seen. And Cubs are playing ball and hitting the ball, and you know, hope springs eternal for a great season.
I tell you, though, after you say all that, here's a ground ball. Might get two. Sandberg over to Dunston, over to first. 4-6-3 double play, beautifully done. You know, you're talking about the beauty of the day, and even a poet could make it sound any better. But let me tell you something. They're having their political troubles here in Arizona. The governor's
I noticed reading the paper.
under a lot of heat.
It's the nature of politics, I guess. Hey, when's the last time, you know, did we ever think we would hear Sandberg to Dunston to Grace?
Again?
Again?
No.
Nice to see that combination back there.
Watch it again.
Well, take a look at this double play, and you won't see many better than this. 4-6-3, and watch Sandberg get rid of it perfectly to Dunston, who avoids getting taken out. And you get two very fast men doubled up in Young and McCracken. Anytime you can do that, you can't afford a bobble. And these guys have been together now a long time, reunited in the Cub infield. And hopefully, the last time they were together and playing this good a baseball, the Cubs won the division. So we'll see about 97 with the same cast of characters united again.
Dan, is the situation in politics, is that one of the reasons you're not going to run again?
It is, Harry. First of all, I've always believed in politics for a time, not a lifetime. I'm a supporter of term limits. And my time is, you know, I've had some good years there, and I really think it's time for me to move on. But I'll tell you, the amount of money you have to raise today to run, the way you have to, the time you have to spend raising money and campaigning, it's just getting out of hand. You can't do your job. So for a whole number of reasons, I felt this is the best time for me to announce that I'm not going to run again. I've got 2 years to work solely on the work of the Senate and try to finish the things I've tried to be engaged in there. And then only be 55 in '98. I'm looking for another career that I can throw myself into. As I said, I wanted third base, then shortstop, then broadcasting, and none of those are working out. So I'll probably have to get into some other kind of business.
What are you going to do?
Not exactly sure. Probably go back to Indiana. Number of there's a shot to that new third baseman, nicely handled. Oh my gosh! I just talked about this guy from Indiana. He throws it in the crowd.
Well, that happened. Let's pause here for identification.
This is America's #1 sports station, WGN-TV, Chicago.
Watch this throw. The ground ball down to Ori. He feels it to his left. He seems to take a lot of time, but he throws high to Grace for an error. So a man's on second base, 2 out. Senator Coates, pleasure as always to see you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I got to ask you, though, this one final question. Every time you hear about something from the Democratic side, they say the Republicans do it too. I guess from the standpoint of raising money, they do. What's the difference?
Well, first of all, I think that the major difference is, number one, we need some campaign finance reform. I mean, this thing is out of control. Number two, though, this is the first time ever that we've had a situation where the White House, the office of the president in the White House, has been directly used to solicit money. I mean, how do you turn down the Vice President of the United States when he calls up and say, we need some money? When the administration has been so engaged in this. I mean, we elect the president, we expect him to serve as president. Now, the president just got reelected, so I mean, what we want now is for him to be president, not fundraiser, not campaigner, not partisan. That's a separate question from the overall question of campaign finance reform, which needs some help.
You know, the dangerous thing, that you haven't said it yet, how do we know what effect this money has in our foreign policy with these foreign countries?
Well, that's the real question, and that's what's going to be investigated. I know the Washington Post this morning ran a big article about the influence of the Chinese and all this money that they've been pouring in. They've now apparently uncovered a plan that they wanted to influence our foreign policy. That's really dangerous. So I think we got to investigate this, get to the bottom of it, and hopefully put an end to this kind of thing, make sure that it never happens again. We can't be selling America, we cannot be selling influence in the White House, and we cannot be selling our foreign policy for campaign contributions. That's wrong.
Senator, thank you very much.
Pleasure to be with you, and Steve, thanks very much, Harry. Best of luck to the Cubs and to both of you for a great season.
Thank you very much. Here is Darnell Cole to replace Galarraga at first base. Fouls off the first pitch. Look at all the Cub players standing on that railing on the top step of the dugout. Easier to see, I would imagine. There they are. Usually in a tense moment at Wrigley Field, you'll see the very same scene. 0-1 the count. Darnell Cole batting for the first time. A veteran, good hitter. Boy, Service is ready to fire. And the count is 0-2. He's way ahead of him. Top of the third. I'm looking for Jerry Holtzman of the Tribune, who's the president of the executive committee of the All-Star Hall of Fame. And you know, he was so instrumental in helping Nellie Fox. Here's a pitch a little bit outside. And Tommy Lasorda, as a matter of fact. And also a great shortstop years ago in the Negro Leagues, Willie Wells. And Jerry promised to drop in. Now ready, 1 ball, 2 strikes. The pitch. High, pop foul back out of play.
Well, Darnell Coles has always had some problems with the off-speed and breaking ball, and now that you're down 2 strikes, this is a good time for Turk to use a hard slider. Don't throw a strike with it. Keep it low and away, and he'll probably get cold. Coles in place of Andres Galarraga took over at first base. Now he's number 5 in the batting order, and a good wipeout pitch is that hard slider.
Runners at first and second. 1-0 Colorado. High pop foul back out of play. A souvenir for some lucky fans. And speaking of the fans, are they ever here in droves today? There's some of the sponsors. Our next and final exhibition broadcast telecast will be 2 weeks from today. Here, when the Cubs play the Giants at HoHoKam Park, Dwight Patterson Field. I love to say Dwight Patterson because he's a wonderful man. He's been ailing. He hasn't been at the ballpark this spring, and hopefully we'll see him within the next few days. 1 ball, 2 strikes, 2 out. Foul ball back. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Turk
2 men around.
still hasn't used that slider. He's gone with the fastball in and the fastball away. And he's well ahead in the count, so let's see if Scott Service decides to break one out here. You certainly don't want to keep this inning alive and get to Vinny Castilla. He's one of the guys who hit 40-plus home runs last year in this power-packed Rocky lineup.
Jim Schaefer with a busload of fans from Evansville, Indiana. On hand here. Curveball low and outside. Steve Bosher, our former manager at Harry Caray's in Chicago, with Irwin Jan watching the ball game here. Steve now is a general manager of a Italian restaurant in Fashion Park. He struck him out a good curveball. So, no run. 1 hit, 1 error, 2 left. We go in the bottom of the third, 1-0, Colorado. How much you going to charge me for just a small piece of your ownership of the Dominican Republic?
Well, you know, we have to sit down and talk about it. You know, so this is something that we need to talk about.
You feel great, huh?
Oh yes, I can complain. I'm ready to go. Last year I just lost, half of the year. Let's say in a month and a half. But you know, I came back, worked hard in Dominican Republic. I'm ready to go this year.
Now you got 9 hits, 5 of them are homers. 1's a triple, 1's a double. Why don't you get some power?
Well, you know, Hey, Harry, you know, when you miss so much time like that, you know, you came to spring training ready to go, especially a guy like me that play every day, want to go out there and do everything for my team. I mean, I'm ready to go. I'm so happy to be here, and I hope, you know, so that I finish my career here in Chicago.
All right, there was Sandy Sosa. We chatted with him, and we mentioned that Jerry Holtzman, the dean of sports writers in Chicago with the Tribune, and Jerry had so much to do with the final naming of Nellie Fox in the Hall of Fame, and as well as Tommy Lasorda. Congratulations, and Willie Wells, by the way, and congratulations for a job well done.
Well, thank you, Harry. But, it was pretty cut and dried. Nellie Fox had waited a very long time. He'd waited 12 years. He should have been elected, as you know, in 1985, when he really got 75% of the vote. And so it was pretty much a unanimous decision. I think everybody was in favor of Nellie Fox. As for Tom Lasorda, it was a little bit closer. He was in competition with Lee MacPhail, who's the father of Andy MacPhail, the president of the Cubs. And Tommy Lasorda didn't win until the second ballot.
And I guess now we start working on Billy Pierce, or Ron Santo.
Well, I think Ron Santo will get in the first year that he comes before the Veterans Committee, which will be in the year 2001. I think he'll be a first ballot inductee. He's very deserving, and the Veterans Committee, I'm sure, will recognize his achievements much more readily than the baseball writers have.
I think it's a shame because when you compare his stats with fellas already in the Hall of Fame as third baseman, you can see why he could easily be in there right now.
Well, he should have been in. I don't know why. It's very difficult to explain.
He's probably overshadowed by great stars like Ernie Banks and Billy Williams.
Well, that's very true. They're all in the Hall of Fame, and he had the misfortune or the good fortune of playing on those teams. But Ron Santo was an outstanding third baseman and should be a strong candidate for the Hall of Fame.
What do you think of baseball right now? Take a look at this crowd. Nothing wrong with it, is there?
I think that baseball is going to come back. It's going to be a big year for baseball. There are many indications of that, and I think that the bad times are over. There's no question about it in my mind.
McRae has bounced out, and Wendell tapped out. So there's two out, and here's Ryan Sandberg. The Cubs trailing by a run. How long have you been here in Arizona? Or have you been in Florida yet?
No, I was in Florida for the meetings, but for the Veterans Committee meeting, and then I flew right back here. I've been here 3 weeks already, and I'll be leaving on Thursday and going to Florida. I usually open up in Arizona and finish up in Florida.
You know, you mentioned the name, Lee MacPhail. They talk about a commissioner of baseball. I don't know how old he is, but he's a wonderful man. And there's a kind of a guy that might make a good commissioner. He could get along with the players and the owners, which I think's got to be done.
Well, Lee MacPhail is either 78 or 79 years old, and he was the assistant commissioner, you know, for many years when General Eckert was the commissioner. And Lee MacPhail is really a very outstanding person and touched all the bases as an executive in baseball. He was in baseball all of his life, more than a half a century. But I think that his age would be against him.
Yeah. Jerry, thank you very much.
Well, you're very welcome, Harry. Nice to see you.
Good to see you. At the end of 3, the Cubs are trailing 1-0. Harry Caray with Steve Stone and Josh Lewin. Lewin will be kid about his shortness of stature. However short he might be, he is long in talent. And here he is for the next 3 innings.
Harry, thanks. Although both my feet reach the ground, though. That's tall enough for me. Vinny Castilla booms one down that third base line, and Ori's around it, comes up fire and won't get him. But Kevin Ori displaying some range, hustling towards that line. And Steve Stone, we've been talking, everybody around here in Mesa's been talking about young Kevin Ori. He's been hitting the ball well. The defense has been a bit erratic so far. That wasn't a bad stab right there.
That was an excellent play by Kevin Ori. He's thrown a couple of balls away, although that one was certainly not his fault. And Turk Wendell probably deserves a better fate. He's throwing the ball pretty well today, although you look up at the board, you see 6 hits. You have to like the way a lot of the youngsters have looked in camp. And granted, Josh, it is early yet, but I think the Cubs have accomplished a lot in the early going.
Rockies up here, the score 1-0. Jeff Reed at the plate. Joliet's own out of West Joliet High School. Joliet, of course, perhaps more famous for launching broadcast careers, those of Harry Caray and Jack Brickhouse. Wendell's slider hacked out there to center field, and we've mentioned that tough Arizona sky. Brian McRae wanders over. He's got it. And the quick throw back in. They've got a shot, but they do not get the man going. Vinny Castilla sneaks into second base.
That's excellent base running by Vinny Castilla. When he saw that Brian McRae was not going to come in on that fly ball, but indeed was backpedaling before he settled under it, that's when Castilla, in the spacious dimensions of HoHoKam Park, decided to take advantage by beating the throw at second. So you don't see it too often. You very rarely will see it during the season. But a heads-up base running play by a man who's not too fleet of foot, Vinny Castilla.
Runner at second, one down, 1-0 Colorado lead, and Brian McRae watches on as Castilla paces away that lead in front of Dunston. Now Nathy Perez up there. A lot of first pitch swinging by this Colorado team, and why not? More than 200 homers for these guys last year, more than 200 steals. Nobody had ever done that before in Major League Baseball. A couple 200 home runs with 200 bags.
And a lot of guys who are capable of hitting 40 home runs and have done it already.
Perez tries to take the bunt with him. And Mark Grace rolls over. He's got it. Great play by Grace, diving in on the fringe.
There's no way Turk Wendell was going to make this play, and Mark Grace knows that if the ball falls, it's going to be a base hit. But he comes in, takes it away, and saves Turk Wendell a lot of difficulty. Great play by Grace, who is the incumbent Gold Glove at first base and in line to win another one.
Pinch hitter for the pitcher Mark Thompson, announced as Tom Quinlan. One-time Blue Jays prospect, was with the Twins last year, and Turk Wendell going after him with a runner at second and now 2 down. More first pitch swinging for this Colorado team. Turk Wendell trying to fight his way through and see not just his 4th inning but a 5th inning today. Take a look at Don Baylor there to your left. And there's Turk Wendell. That's what's happened for him today. Coming in 5 innings of 1-hit baseball before this afternoon. And ladies, Turk is off the market. Elvis has left the proverbial building here. Turk was married in Wisconsin first day of February. A honeymoon in Maui, and now spring training in Mesa. Castilla, base runner at second for Colorado. Rockies have a 1-0 lead.
That's a changeup that Turk has been working on, and quite frankly, you can tell he doesn't feel real comfortable with it yet. This is when you have to work these things out. Phil Regan's got him throwing that 3-finger change. He realizes he truly needs that one pitch if he's going to solidify himself in the starting rotation.
Probably the biggest difference, you figure, coming out of the bullpen facing 3-4 guys, you can get away with throwing just a couple pitches, but if you're going to be exposed out there to 9 guys in the lineup, maybe 2-3 times apiece, you got to have something else to show. And Turk Wendell, as a starter for AAA Iowa back in '94, he had a great time of it. He was 11-6, 2.95 ERA. Loses the pinch hitter Quinlan here, fastball riding up.
Well, this shows you that Turk really doesn't have his good stuff today, because if you think about critical points in an inning, you would think that a right-handed pinch hitter with 2 outs in the inning, you know you have to go get him, or in this case, you're going to leave the game. And Turk didn't go get him. The pitches have started to pile up. So Phil Regan comes out. That's going to be it for Turk, who would have liked a better outing today. He was by no means hammered, but he just didn't have that pinpoint location that has characterized his 2 previous outings.
We're going to see Ken Bottenfield coming on, trying to get the Cubbies out of a jam here in the top of the 4th. We'll be back in Mesa right after this timeout.
shown much here early this spring, on for just the third time. A total of 3 innings, 6 hits, ERA an even 9. But let's forget about this spring. It's early. Let's concentrate on last year for Kent Bottenfield. And he was just outstanding. A 3-5 record, but a spectacular 2.63 ERA in 43 ball games for the Cubs. At Iowa, equally as impressive, 1-2 with a 2.19 ERA. And Ken Bottenfield's name has been mentioned as perhaps a starter, but if Turk Wendell has moved from the bullpen to the rotation, Kent Bottenfield could fill the gap vacated by Wendell in that pen, so this becomes a big outing for him.
Big spot right here, 2 on, 2 out. Kent Bottenfield is augmenting his repertoire here, Steve, with a knuckler.
I think he's trying to do everything he can to try to stay around, but I'll tell you something, Josh. Last year, his stuff was good enough to make him one of the more effective guys out of a very effective bullpen for the Cubs.
1 strike pitch, and Eric Young, a tough hitter, now even in the count. Kent Bottenfield, in 1994, he was in spring training as a Colorado Rocky. He had the honor of suffering the Cactus League's first injury that year, kind of a freak injury that shut him down for a while. Bottenfield had just bunted against a pitching machine and was unaware as he walked away that a Rockies coach had slipped another baseball in the machine, so Kent got smacked on the back of the hand, and he missed the next 2 months.
Well, those pitching machines are vindictive. A lot of people really don't understand that, but you never turn your back on a pitching machine.
Well, some of them have an attitude. That's true. 2 balls, 2 strikes now to Eric Young. Led the National League in steals last year, but showed up in spring training 10 pounds heavier this year. Don Baylor was a little bit concerned about that. Doesn't want the extra luggage being toted around by a guy that stole 53 bases. 2-2 pounded out there to right field. Here comes Sammy. He locks it up. Once again, the Cubs tiptoe out of the minefield here. It stays a 1-0 game. We'll go to the bottom of the 4th here in Mesa.
In the Cub uniform.
Well, tell us a little bit, if you would, about this Cubs pitching staff. Obviously, the injury to Tappan, he messes things up a little bit, but where do you go from there?
Well, I think we're going to be all right. You know, right now, Steve Traxel's throwing the ball very well, and I'm happy with him. Castillo's throwing well. Mulholland has been throwing the ball well. Foster, we worked with a few things on him and has been doing well. Turk Wendell, who's pitching today, has been just outstanding in every phase of the game. He's leading the team in our morning runs and sprints and everything else, and we want him to go 5 innings today, but he's been a real pleasant surprise, and you know, I think he could fill a role for us if we need him to put him in that starting spot.
Well, as it is, Turk Wendell went 3 2/3 today. Ken Bottenfield came on to get out of the 4th, and now as the Cubs come up in the last of the 4th inning, we find Mike Farmer on the mound out of Gary, Indiana. He's facing Mark Grace. Look out.
Farmer's had limited action this spring. He's been in 2 games, total of 2 innings. His ERA is 27. He gets to 29, he should sell. Last year, briefly with Colorado, he was 0-1 with a 7.71 ERA in 7 games.
Hot shot, Cole's knocked down by it. And the quick flip, safe is the call. That looked like Mike Farmer was playing a game of Twister over there, trying to go right foot on the red, and the left hand on the green, just couldn't find the base. And we're going to go E3 with that one. Darnell Cole's knocked backwards.
The one thing about Darnell Cole, through his myriad of Major League experience, he's always been an excellent hitter. But he's had his problems with the glove. Here he knocks it down. The toss is not very good. Farmer skips over the bag. And Ed Montague says that Mark Grace is safe at first, so the Cubs have the tying run aboard via the air charge to Darnell Cole.
On the go-ahead man is none other than Sammy Sosa, digging in against this guy, Mike Farmer. Sammy, 9 out of 18 for the spring. 5 home runs in those 18 at-bats. Before the broken hand last year, Harry was talking about it. He was headed for another 30-30 season. Never mind 30-30. He had a shot for a 50-30 season last year. That's never been done in the history of Major League Baseball. Hank Aaron was closest to that. 1963 Milwaukee Braves. The Hammer went 44 home runs and 31 stolen bases. But if Sammy had not been knocked down by that Mark Hutton fastball back on August 20th last year. Well, he was steamrolling towards, I guess the pace was 52 homers, and I'm sure he would have picked it up with the stolen bases, too. Here he's got a 2-0 count. He broke the bat, but he lifts it out to left. That'll be flagged down out there by McCracken. Well, let's see. The bat splintered in half, and he still hit the ball, what, about 325 feet?
Well, there's no doubt about the strength of Sosa. Pretty good pitch by Farmers. He got inside on the hands of Sammy. This is not a particularly big ballpark, especially in the light air here in Mesa. It's 340 down the left field line, and Sammy just muscles this ball. There's not much bat left in his hands as he drives it out to left field. And now it's up to Sean Dunston, who would like to start tuning it up. Sean's batting average way down there. It still is very early, especially for the veterans who know what it's like to get into shape over the course of a 32-game spring schedule.
2 out of 16 so far for Sean as he looks at the curve in the dirt. Well, Sean is already enjoying this spring training more than last year's, I guarantee you that. First of all, he's back with the Cubs, of course. Second of all, he is yet to be bitten by a scorpion. And last year around this time, that happened. One of those little guys came crawling out of his warm-up jacket, got him on the arm. On 1-0, he tags it right back to Farmer, and Grace is going to be doubled up. Well, he couldn't have hit it any harder. But so it goes for Sean Dunston this spring so far. 1-0 ball game as we get ready for the fifth. We'll come right back. One of 4 Rockies with triple-digit RBIs last year. 4 guys with 100 RBIs or more. Hadn't happened since the 1920s. Now the 1-0 from Bottenfield. Another big rip from a Colorado hitter, but Castilla doesn't get it.
Well, it wasn't surprising because they had speed at the top and they had bombers down through that order. And now when you add Larry Walker to the mix, and he's going to come back healthy, these are some bombers. Hence the name the Blake Street Bombers.
On the inside corner for a strike, 1 and 2. Still just 1 out here and a runner on. 2 runs in the 5th. 3-0 Colorado. Trying to tamp down what the Cubs have done here, breaking out to a 6-3 Cactus League start, leading the Cactus League at this point. In the air and foul off the bat of Vinny Castilla.
How about the start of the Florida Marlins at 11-0?
I think the last time a team from Miami was 11-0, it was the 73 Dolphins, wasn't it? 72 Dolphins?
72 Dolphins. And they went on to an undefeated season, which of course the Marlins won't. And nothing that happens in the spring will affect what happens during the year, but certainly that's got to give them some confidence.
Now the 1-2. Rides a little high. Good to see the Angels getting a win yesterday. They had been 0-8. The Angels actually are now 0-8 without musician Bruce Hornsby in the lineup. They are 1-0 with Bruce Hornsby in the lineup. You see that? Terry Collins pinch ran Bruce Hornsby for Kevin Bass yesterday. So indeed, Disney hasn't changed that organization one iota.
Not a bad idea. If Goofy pinch hits the next game, you'll know that things are changing.
I guess Zamfir, master of the pan flute, was indisposed. Castilla rakes it with foul up that third base line. Oh, we were talking about the Expos. They've only won once as well so far. The Braves are only 2-7, but as you say, Stoney, that's why spring training means nothing.
Well, a team that has mostly veterans really doesn't worry about any type of record in the spring. All they want to do is make sure their pitchers get their innings in, their veterans get their swings in, and the rest is going to take care of themselves. I have the feeling that Bobby Cox and John Shearholtz are not really panicking over the 2-7 Braves start.
Cole's moving on a full count, and he can slow down, coast into second base because that's ball 4. After a Quentin McCracken ground out, it's been a walk, a couple singles, now another walk. Jeff Reed coming to the plate, and the Rockies continue to threaten here in the 5th inning. Well,
the one thing Jeff Reed can't do very well is run, and so Kent Bottenfield can keep the ball down, get that ground ball, the Cubs will turn 2 and get out of the inning.
Left-hand hitting catcher. That'll keep him around for a little while. Actually, Reed stunned his millions of fans across the land last year when he actually stole a base. And he was asked afterwards if he remembered who was president last time he did that, and he said with a straight face, I think it was Richard Nixon.
Not Grover Cleveland.
1-0 is poured in there, and now 1-1 the count to Jeff Reed.
He was actually used a lot in hit and runs last year by Don Baylor, who surprisingly, with all the bombers he had, was very aggressive, especially on the road, where he knew he wasn't going to get quite as many home runs or doubles. He tried to do everything he could. As you look at Don Baylor, try to shake his team out of his road malaise that turned into a 28-53 record.
Malaise was Jimmy Carter.
And if you leave it out too long, it spoils. Yes.
That's right. Tastes good on a sandwich, though. Take a look at Don Baylor there. They used to call him Groove when he played for the Orioles. Got into that great groove at the plate and was one of the more formidable hitters in a great lineup. Off speed right in there. And Jeff Reed can go take his seat. Second out of the inning. Bottenfield needed that.
Cub fans, purchase your tickets today for the 1997 Chicago Cubs baseball season. Individual game tickets are now on sale from opening day to the premiere of interleague play. Experience the excitement and tradition of Cubs baseball at Wrigley Field. For tickets, stop by the Wrigley Field box office, any Ticketmaster Ticket Center, or call 312-831-CUBS.
2 on, 2 out. Here's Nafi Perez, 21-year-old, making a lot of noise here in this Colorado camp. Boy, the Rockies like him a lot. Defense has gotten very good. He's a self-taught switch hitter.
Well, they're trying to find a spot, either second or short, depending on a deal that Bob Gebhardt can make. He's talked to other clubs about Eric Young and about Walt Weiss. So far, nothing's been done, and Perez, a man without a position.
Ground ball, a worm burner over there to Grace, over to Bottenfield covering, and again, the Cubs get out of an inning in which it could have been worse, but a couple runs come across. We are halfway through it here at HoHoKam in Mesa. 3-0 your score. We're coming right back. We're back in Mesa. Josh Lewin and Steve Stone will be back in just a moment. I'm privileged to be here with a couple of the Cubs' wives. Tracy Castillo is here to my immediate left, and Margaret Sandberg is here as well. And I understand the big food drive is coming up. We're going to talk to you all about that in just a moment. It's a 3-0 ball game right now. Rockies in front of the Cubs, who all of a sudden have stopped hitting just over the last couple of days. They had been hitting .360 as a team. They've been knocking the cover off the ball, scoring runs at will. They were held to a run yesterday. They've got nothing today. But here's Ozzie Timmons trying to jumpstart him in the bottom of the 5th inning. And it's Mike Farmer on the mound. Timmons takes inside. He's ahead in the count. Well, ladies, it's great to see you. Tell me, Margaret, if you would, a little bit about this event coming up. I guess it's coming Friday, right?
Right. Thanks, Josh. Thanks, Steve, for having us on the air. Tracy and I are really excited that you let us come on and share with all the Cubs fans what we're doing. Generally, we start our charity work in Chicago, but this year, with this beautiful ballpark and all this that HoHoKams have given us, we'd like to give back to the community, give back to Mesa.
Ozzie Timmons looks one out there to left center. Who wants it? Who can find it, I guess, is the question. Quentin McCracken does. Well, it's for a great cause. Paz de Cristo, right? The community center here in Mesa. And Tracy, can you tell us a little bit about how that's all come down, and how did you get together with them?
Well, actually, we did want to give back to the community here in Mesa, and the HoHoKams recommended that we do something for Paz de Cristo. Paz is a charitable organization. It's nonprofit. It serves the needy and the homeless here in the East Valley. And this Friday, the 14th, here at the ballpark, we're going to have a food drive. And so from 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock before the ball game, all the Cubs wives will be at the gates greeting you and collecting your non-perishable items.
Kevin Ory with a ground ball to third, and Castillo should take care of it, and he certainly does. 2 down in the inning. Now, you guys will be out there too, right? It'll be a chance for the fans to get to know you. Are you going to have jerseys on or name tags? How will we know who we are?
We'll have name tags. You'll know us. We'll have name tags, hats, and we'll all have white T-shirts on. So we'll be there, yes, definitely, to greet the people. And, you know, if they come early, they'll get an autographed item from one of our husbands.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a great cause, too.
It is.
Will you make provisions if the fans are not able or lucky enough to get tickets for the game but would love to donate to your cause, can
Yes.
they also come in and...
Well, you know, we're having the cans located outside each of the gates. There's 6 gates, and there'll be a couple of cans outside, so they don't have to come into the game. Right.
The first donation is going to be made by Steve Stone.
All right, we'll take it.
I don't think that cigars are are they non-perishable? I don't even know.
Absolutely
you know,
non-perishable and biodegradable, might I add, but non-smokable here in Mesa.
And the organization has said that they needed high-protein items such as beans, pastas, all the stuff that's high-protein right now. They're in lack of that.
How about baby food? And
They need baby food, diapers, anything, because they serve the homeless. 250 people a night they serve. And
365 days a year.
Right.
They don't take off holidays.
Yeah.
So this Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 o'clock Mountain Time out here in Mesa. And ladies, I wish you well with it. It's a great cause.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks very much for coming up. Tracy Castillo and Margaret Sandberg joining us here in the bottom of the 5th inning. Scott Service now at the plate. Cubs trying to come back from down 3-0. Phil Regan and company watching on out there. There's Scott Service. He booms one to left field. That is heading for the berm. And the Cubs are on the board. Great spring for Scott Service. He's now 8 out of 16. That's his first home run. And the fans, about 12,000 strong, finally have something to shout about today.
Farmer is having a tough spring. Got one out over the plate and Scott Service put the Cubs 2 runs down. 11 home runs last year and 1 right here. That one's said to hit me, and Scott Service just rifled it into left field. Just about 345 at that spot. Very small here for Arizona. And Scott Service gets a line drive home run to put the Cubs on the board for the first time today.
Well, you know, they've been talking to Scott Service about cutting down his swing a little bit. Tony Muser wants to see him become more of a double hitter, but if he's going to rake line drive home runs, I think that's fine too. Mike Hubbard pinch hitting, and he socked one in the air to center field. That's the deepest part of the park. Plenty of room out there for it. The Colorado center fielder Ellen Burks. Cubs do get on the board here with a run. We're through 5 in Houston now. Rockies 3, Cubs 1. Steve and I are coming right back. Josh Lewin with Steve Stone. Harry's coming back in the 7th. Have no fear. 3-1 is our score now as we head to the 6th inning. Bob Patterson is going to be the new pitcher.
And there's a hat shot, the famous Harris hat shot with the troll on top that became famous in our broadcast a few years ago, but then disappeared. And that's one of the mysteries of WGN television over the last few years. But there's a Harris hat shot, the first of the spring.
Bob Patterson getting in some work for the 4th time this spring, and it hasn't gone real well for Bob quite yet. Most recently, he's been fighting some sort of illness. He's trying to figure out exactly what it is. They think it might be food poisoning. Whatever it was gave him a pretty bad rash all up and down his shoulders and up to his neck. And he's been fighting that. He's been fighting those numbers as well, giving up the 7 hits, including a long home run to Ken Griffey Jr.
Well, last year was such a remarkable year for Bob Patterson that it's unrealistic to assume that he can equal or duplicate it. I know he's a very fine pitcher, but a 3.13 ERA in 79 appearances, and he was magnificent with 8 saves. Ozzie Timmons in left. Mike Hubbard stays in behind the plate, so a new battery of Patterson and Hubbard with Ozzie Timmons in defensively. And hopefully Patterson can shake his woes here early in the spring, because he was a big part of that pen for the Cubs.
Jason Bates pinch hitting in the number 9 spot, and Cubs fans might remember this guy was involved in a memorable scrap with Sean Dunston a couple of years ago. Out there at second base. Patterson buzzes that fastball in there, and he's way behind 3-0.
Generally, you don't get too excited about a veteran struggling. Now, if Patterson were fighting to make this ball club, there would be cause for concern, but he's here. He'll go north with the team, so even if he does struggle in the spring, you don't worry about it. And that's the luxury of a veteran who can round into shape.
Now he got a knee-high strike called from Jim Quick that time, fighting back to a 3-1 count. And now the count full. Eric Young gets that baseball in the on-deck circle. Jason Bates played his college ball at the University of Arizona, just a bike ride away from the Rockies spring training facility down there in Tucson.
And he's having a great spring, hitting .444, although last year he hit just .206 in limited action.
Payoff pitch on the way. And Skyd out of play will do it again. Let's pause for just a moment. We've got station identification.
This is America's #1 sports station, WGN-TV, Chicago.
Cactus League record crowd here this afternoon in Mesa. More than 12,000 as Bates shoots a line drive right at Ryan Sandberg. One away here in the sixth.
Today's crowd, Josh, 12,511, an all-time Cactus League record. The previous record, 11,066. They're sitting everywhere. They're standing everywhere. It's wonderful to see a completely packed ballpark. And this is a historic ballpark today as they set the new Cactus League attendance record.
Beautiful afternoon. You've got a nice little burgeoning rivalry here between the Cubs and the Rockies. Eric Young looks the fastball too high. This is, what, 19 straight years now for the Cubs in Mesa for spring training. In the past, they had headquartered everywhere from Selma, Alabama, going way back when. French Lick, Indiana, Larry Bird's hometown.
Catalina Island.
Yeah. Shreveport.
Well, that's always a good spot for spring training. No humidity down there. I played in Shreveport. Uniform got wet and stayed wet the entire 4-game series.
Line is shot to left field. Ozzie Timmons hunts it down. 2 away here in the top of the sixth. Cubs back to within 3-1 on the Scott Service home run. Now McCracken coming up. 25th round pick out of Duke a couple of years ago. He had juggled his time as a football defensive back, baseball second baseman at the time, and he was also a double major in political science and history. So a true Renaissance man. He was doing it all down there at Duke. Patterson pours in a strike. He's ahead in the count.
I can relate to that. That was my dual major. History and
poli-sci and history, is that right?
Absolutely, and you can see I put it to good use.
Well, you did use the word malaise earlier, so, you know, it's got a political connotation.
We're going to be seeing a few new parks, not only this one here in Mesa, but the fairly new park in Cleveland, Jacobs Field, will be inaugurating the new park in Atlanta. That should be something to see.
That's going to be fun. I saw a drawing of that park the other day. That's going to be beautiful. In on the fifth, and out there to right field, Sammy Sosa drifting under it, and Quentin McCracken's retired. So are the Colorado Rockies. Finally, the Cubbies get a 1-2-3 inning. They'll be coming up with the top of the order in the bottom of the sixth. Can they get it going? We'll find out. Stay with us. Josh Lewin with Steve Stone, Harry Caray, director Arnie Harris, and a great production crew out here from WGN today. I want to thank all of them. I want to thank everybody out there watching today for joining us in Mesa, where it is an absolutely gorgeous afternoon. Temperature in the 80s, a record-setting crowd here. Cactus League record of 12,511. Looks like they're having just a great time out there, especially on that berm.
Well, it's beautiful. They get a suntan, watch the game, and you can watch it fairly close up if you're in Mesa. Enjoy yourself and appreciate Luther Hackman coming into the game at 6'4", 195 pounds. Out of Columbus, Mississippi. He was at Asheville last year. He was 5-7. He appeared in 21 games, all of them as a starter. And that says Salem. But I guess Asheville and Salem are synonymous. 110 innings, 93 hits. He's a big, strong young man trying to earn a spot in the bullpen. Things pretty well settled as far as the rotation is concerned. In fact, a reliever by the name of Darren Holmes, who at times was a stopper, is giving consideration for that starting rotation. He's a lot like Turk Wendell as far as the Rockies are concerned. They are taking a guy out of that bullpen and trying to fit him into that starting rotation. They got good news out of Billy Swift. He's thrown twice. I talked to Bob Gethart, the general manager, and he said that Billy Swift looks terrific as you look at Jason Bates, who takes over at second. And if Swift is healthy, that's a huge lift to the Rockies.
Brian McRae is trying to get the Cubs started here in the bottom of the 6th. Hackman's first delivery is too high. We've got Vinny Castilla playing in on the fringe at third, not ruling out the bunt possibility. And of course, Brian McRae, one of the more adept in the National League at laying down a bunt and beating it out. But now that he's ahead in the count 2-0, what do you figure? You got to swing away here.
Well, normally you would, but I would like to see against Luther Hackman, who has to be nervous and has some control problems. I'd like to see him take a strike. Maybe he can get on via the base on ball.
Well, it's tough to miss that target. Jeff Reed's got that day-glow orange in the middle of the catcher's mitt, but somehow it is a 3-0 count to Brian McRae.
I got to believe if he waits long enough, he's going to wind up at first base here in the not-too-distant future.
Good call.
I think there's 4 of them, Brian. I think you can go now.
Brian, you want to go down there, or what do you want to do?
Brian, that's 4 of them, Brian, I think. You can take a walk, buddy.
There you go.
Way to go.
All right.
Even in the spring, you get 4.
Somebody must have been in the middle of a great joke there or something. Just wanted to hang around and hear it still. Looks like Robin Jennings is going to pinch run now for Brian McRae. McRae going back to study up on some baseball rules at this point. How many balls, strikes, that kind of thing. Now here's Rhino, and he is the tying man. And this young rookie, Luther Hackman, is suddenly in a tough spot. I guarantee you, it's Salem. He was not pitching in front of 12,511 people on national TV. Now he's got to face Ryne Sandberg with those 260-odd home runs. Ryan's 7 out of 21 this spring now, having taken an 0 for 2 so far today. Gets into this one, but sprays it foul, and suddenly a 2-strike count to Ryne Sandberg. Cubs looking to do a lot of things this year better than last year. One of the things that they've got to be looking at is finding a number 2 hitter and using that hitter consistently. The Cubs used 13 different players in the 2-hole last year. Sandberg seems to like this spot. Certainly he and Bob Dernier liked it okay when they were the daily double some years ago.
Well, Rhino always felt much more comfortable hitting second. In fact, he had 40 home runs as a number 2 hitter, and for whatever reason, I think that he just fits in the order in that spot. And with that in mind, he's been working on hitting the ball a little more to right field, because in the later years when he's tried to pull everything, obviously the hit and run hasn't been used quite as much with him. But I think this year Jim Riggleman, especially against certain pitchers that might give Rhino some trouble, will put on the hit and run on occasion. You'll see Sandberg trying to shoot that ball through the right side a little more.
You got to look at Scott's service. He's done for the day, and after hitting his first home run of the spring this afternoon. 1-2 to Rhino. Could be 2. Perez turns it, and the Rockies do get 2 on one swing. Smattering of applause here from the Rockies fans. Let's take a look at it.
Well, this was a fairly slow hit ball, and you're surprised that Sandberg has doubled on the play, but real quick hands, both with Bates and with Perez, and they get the ball across in time. A good, snappy double play, and credit Perez and Bates with a good effort in the middle infield.
Yeah, acrobatically turned by Jason Bates. Clears the bases for Mark Grace, who's been on base a couple times today. Grace having won 4 straight Gold Gloves. Last year had his best ever year for batting average, .331, plus he threw in 75 RBIs. On the ground to second, another chance for Jason Bates. Flawlessly handles it, and the Cubs can't do anything here, although they will have Sammy Sosa up in the 7th inning. First things first, top of the 7th coming, and Harry's coming back. Stay with us, everybody. Rockies up by 2.
Hello again, everybody. Harry Caray with Steve Stone and Josh Lewin as we go in the top of the 7th. The Cubs, who've been hitting the ball very well all spring, have been held in touch, only 2 hits so far today, Steve.
Well, this is uncharacteristic, Harry, because the Cubs' offense has been pretty good, and their pitching has been surprisingly good. Today, the pitching has been okay, the defense spotty, but no hitting. But I expect this team is going to score some runs, Harry, so this is just an aberration. Don't worry about the offense. It'll be there when the bell rings.
All right, I'll remember that. Here is Ellis Burks. First pitch fouls it back. We have a Jennings now playing in center field. Cairo at second base for the Cubs. Robin Jennings checking the sun. The Cub outfielders, especially the young outfielders, have had a lot of trouble. There's a curveball, gets away from Hubbard. Arnie thinks the first guy to catch a fly ball in left field will win the job. Hey, Ted Tomaszewski, who works in the Cubs clubhouse, wants to be remembered to his mom and dad, Mary and Ted Tomaszewski in Chicago.
Some best wishes to Arnie Harris from Susie Lorenz, a longtime Cub fan, looking on, asking Arnie how the dogs are doing.
Line shot, foul.
Harry, you'll be happy to know that your barber, Stan Demery, is coming along after his surgery.
Well, I need a haircut very badly. I'll have to go over and see him. Is he working?
Not yet. He'll be, his brother is helping him out for a while, and he figures that a two-handed barber is better than a one-handed barber, so he's going to wait to rehabilitate here, but should be back by the end of the month, off the disabled list and ready to go.
The pitch. Swung, and he missed, and he struck him out. Anderson has retired 4 in a row. And here's Larry Walker. So Ellis Burks went down swinging for the second time today. And here, Walker, who singled in the 5th, doubled in the 1st. High fly ball. Coming in, coming in, coming in. Timmons makes the catch. Nice play.
Good effort by Ozzie Timmons, as we'll take a look. Fighting the high sky, no clouds at all today, and Ozzie comes in and makes the play. This one didn't get up too high, so it was a little easier play, and that gives us a chance to tell you that you can experience Cubs baseball from the finest seats in the park. Rent a Wrigley Field mezzanine suite. Suites are available for every game this season and can accommodate groups of 15 to 55. Make an impression on your clients and guests and reserve your mezzanine suite today. So for more information, call 773-404-4200.
There's a base hit on the first pitch. A line single into left field by Coles. His cousins, Mark and Harvey Rogoff, send their greetings to Chicago Judge Sheldon Garber. 2 men are out. Boy, oh boy, you know, I saw a table the other day in the paper. And I can't get over all the fuss that's made about hitters who got the 2,000th hit, hitters who got that 3,000th hit, as Murray did a year ago. Pete Rose has 4,256 hits. For more than 20 years, he averaged better than 200 hits. That may be a record that'll never be broken.
I can't see it ever being broken, Harry, because I don't think anybody will stay around that long.
That's right.
But still, 3,000 hits is nothing to sneeze at. It also gets you a bucket load of money these days.
but it's not 4,000 hits.
No, it's not.
And you mean to tell me Pete Rose shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame?
Well, that's another argument.
Here's a curveball, huh? Well, I only brought it up because you'd love to argue.
Well, I do like to argue, and I've, you know...
Do you argue with your dad, Ma, the way you argue with me?
Absolutely.
That's not what he told me.
That's what keeps the relationship alive.
2 men are out, a runner at first. The pitch foul back.
My stepmother is an ardent Democrat, Harry, and we've been extolling the virtues of all of the things that's going on in the White House of late, so we've been arguing quite a bit lately.
What's been going on? I haven't read the thing.
Well, you had a pretty good conversation with Senator Dan Coates earlier.
Boy, that is hard to figure it out. You know, in the White House, the presidency of the United States. Hard to believe. Vinny Castillo waiting. Fastball outside. Well, Patterson had retired 5 in a row before Colds singled him up.
I think you got to be careful here with Castillo, who hasn't swung the bat exceptionally well today, but he is a bona fide home run hitter. He's looking for something middle in right here.
There goes a runner, swung on, line drive right center field. Nobody will get it. The run will be able to score. Holds it around third. And Castillo doubles to right center, scoring Cole. And it's 4-1 in favor of the Rockies. Boy, that Castillo has become an outstanding ball player and hitter.
Well, he certainly is a slugger, Harry, but he shows you here that he's also a good hitter. He's geared up for the fastball. He wants it middle in, but he gets it away, and still, because the ball is up, he hits a shot to right center field. So you know he would have been waiting for anything that was straight. He got it. He drove home his 4th run of the spring, and you can tell why these Rockies are going to be trouble this year. If they get any pitching at all, and a lot of teams say that, but the Rockies have the offense to make it hold up.
2 men around. Here's Jeff Reed from Joliet, Illinois. Went to Joliet Township High School. 2 out, a run is in. 4-1 Rocky. Swung and he missed. Mike and Jackie Toten from Oakdale, California, celebrating their 25th anniversary here today. Great Cub fans. 0-1 the count, 2 out. Here's a pitch foul back. Well, it's either Fred Mitchell, columnist for the Chicago Tribune, has just come into town. He joins Paul Sullivan and Jerry Holtzman, covering the Cubs for the Tribune. Jeff Reed, 0-2 the count. Ken Fleischman from Bartlett, Illinois, celebrating a birthday here today.
I'd like to send along a thank you to Bob Curson from the Sun-Times for the very kind words.
Now the pitch, here it is. Swung and he struck him out. So 1 run, 2 hits, no errors, 1 man left. We go in the bottom of the 7th. Rockies 4, Cubs 1. Me out to the ball game. Hey, me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and crackers, Jack. I don't care if I ever get back home with root for the country. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. Harry Caray back at Dwight Patterson Field at HoHoKam Park here in Mesa. And the Cubs could use a rally in Sammy Sosa. You'd rather see him coming up with a couple men on, but he's leading off the bottom of the 7th.
New outfield from left to right. Pulliam, McCracken, and Velasquez. Pulliam in left, McCracken shifts to center, and Velasquez in right. So a new outfield for the Rockies.
And Sharon Panazzo just passing along that information. Met Sharon's father today here at the ballpark. And complimented him on the great job his family's done in teaching Sharon to behave herself in public. Hackman, swung and he missed. 1 ball, 1 strike. Sharon, let them see you. Hey, there's a camera. Wait a minute, here's the camera over here. Like most women, she's shy. I say that tongue-in-cheek. Look out high and inside. 2 balls and the strike. Sammy Sosa 0 for 2. Cubs have had only 2 hits. And the Rockies, the only weakness they're said to have is pitching. Not today. The pitching outstanding.
Sammy's getting a fastball here, Harry, so it should be interesting.
It is a line drive in the left center field for extra bases. Sammy on his way to second base with a double. Well, you're about 5 for 5 this year.
You got to figure, Harry, he's a youngster. It's 2-1. You don't want to go 3-1 on Sosa. You got to figure a fastball's coming. And if Sosa knows a fastball's coming and it's down, he's going to hit it as hard as anybody in the league. And he just rifles this one by Pulliam in left.
Well, here's a guy who rifled the ball the last time up right back to the pitcher who made a one-handed catch. Sammy leaving the ball game. Pedro Valdez replaces Sammy Sosa.
Watch the Sosa swing. It's a fastball. It's down somewhat.
Ooh.
And Sammy just unloads. Great extension. And he's one of the real deadly fastball hitters around.
He's had 10 hits now, 5 home runs, 2 doubles, and a triple. 8 out of the 10 hits for extra bases, including 5 home runs. How about those potatoes? 0-1 the count, Sean Dunston. 0 for 2.
During the course of the season, you would expect Dunston in this situation to try to hit the ball to the right side to move along Valdez and set up the Cubs to get a run closer. Let's see if Sean can move the runner along, get the job done here.
The pitch by Hackman, swung and a miss. I don't want to see him do that. You're 3 runs behind, and Sean is capable of hitting for extra bases, and just advancing the man to third gives them 1 out of the 3 outs you got.
I know, Harry, if you're in the later innings, I mean, you're in the 7th inning here, and I'm thinking that if you get a run closer, it's a little easier to come back against the team. 2 runs down, you can always put the tying run up to bat with putting on 1 base runner.
There's a long fly ball, short right center field. It goes not quite as far as it sounded when it left the bat. And so Dunston flies out to Valquez in right field. 1 out. They have McCracken now playing center field. Pulliam in left field and Valquez in right field. 1 out, 1 on. And here is Ozzie Timmons. Timmons flat out batting for Brand Brown. In the 5th. One ball, 1 strike, no balls. 1 out, 1 on. At second base, Valdez. Good lead. Hackman. Hopped it up. And holds under it, 2 away. Timmons fouls out to Darnell Cole. And here is Kevin Ory. Frances Broughton, mother of HoHo member Bob Broughton. Here in Mesa, she's 93 years old, watching the ball game. And friends of Newell Bliss, our good friend, another HoHoKam guy are here. The Kileys from West Lafayette, Indiana. Well, Ory could get a big hit here and pick up a big RBI. Cubs have 1 hit, 1 run, 3 hits, 1 error. Pitch in the dirt. Reed, a good stop. Jeff Reed from Joliet, Illinois. He's been with various ball clubs. And whenever he plays at Wrigley Field, the whole city of Joliet is on hand. 1 ball, no strikes.
Kevin Ory's been trying to pull most everything this spring. I'd like to see him start going to right and right center, because if he's known as a pull hitter, they're going to work him away consistently.
There's a pitch away, very far away. Ball 2. Jimmy Gluntz and family from Frankfort, Illinois, which is a present home of our good friend and great ball player and great shortstop, outstanding manager, and a fine broadcaster, Lou Boudreau, now living in Frankfort, Illinois. There's a strike call. A Super Cup fan, Jim Lynch, sports editor of the Zion Benton News, Zion, Illinois, watching the ball game. 2 balls and the strike. Kevin Ory. O-R-I-E. Had a good swing, fouls it back.
This copyrighted telecast is presented by the authority of the Chicago National League Ball Club, which has the right of approval of the announcers and is intended solely for the private, non-commercial use of our audience. Any publication, reproduction, retransmission, or other use of the pictures, descriptions, and accounts of this game without the express written consent of the Chicago National League Ball Club is prohibited.
2 men around. Betty McLaughlin, grandmother of Cubs young catcher Pat Klein, watching the ball game here. Ooh, he had a good rip and fouls it back. Nan and Danny Stitt from Albuquerque, New Mexico are on hand. Boy, they're here from everywhere today.
Are you making up these names?
No, I'm not. I never lie. And if I made up the names, I'd think of something. Runner at second base, 2 out. Valdez edges away. Ory trying to drive in a run. Woo, foul tip.
Well, it's a real interesting battle right here. I know it's spring and I know it's fairly early, but you got a very young pitcher and a very young hitter going head-to-head. The count is even, and so far Hackman hasn't been able to get the last pitch by Ory. If you're a veteran catcher like Reed, you're thinking probably about throwing a breaking ball out of the zone away, anything away from Ory, and maybe you can get him over anxious with first base open. Let's see what Jeff Reed decides to put down for the youngster Hackman, and let's see where he goes with it.
2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out. Fouled it back. Here's a name I'm going to make up, Pete. Pete and Carol Pearson would like to say hello to Carol's mother, Gladys Thompson, in Peterborough, Ontario, Canada. That's from Peter Pearson. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out. Valdez, a long lead. Ground ball, he tried to pull an outside pitch, and he's thrown out. 5-3. A leadoff double is wasted at the end of 7th. The Rockies are still ahead, 4-1.
On today's Discover Card Payback Playback, when spring training began here at the new HoHoKam Park, Sammy Sosa vowed to hit the new scoreboard with a home run. Fans didn't have to wait too long. Sosa did it in his first at-bat last Saturday, leaving a dent. Sosa has already left his mark.
Well, we're ready to go in the top of the 8th, and it's all Rockies, 4-1. Here's Terry Adams coming in to pitch. Valdez stays in the ball game in right field, replacing Sosa. And we have Hansen. Dave Hansen now playing at first base in place of Mark Grace. We're going to the 8th.
Let's look at Terry Adams, who comes into the game off a wonderful year, a rookie year for Adams. There you look at Hansen at first, and young Terry Adams at 6'3", 205 out of Mobile, Alabama, 2.94 ERA.
Hernandez now playing shortstop. Jose Hernandez for the Cubs. Terry Adams on the mound. Look at the earned run average of Adams as a rookie last year. Or rather, batting average against him as a rookie last year.
I thought Adams was used to do a few different things. He was asked to close on occasion with 4 saves. He pitched in the middle. He pitched as a setup man. And whatever Terry Adams did last year, Jim Riggleman had a smile on his face because Adams was very consistent out of that bullpen. This is a talented young pitcher.
Perez, the shortstop, 1 out of 3. Slow roller. Throw to first. Easy out. 1 away. Cairo throws out Perez. Now, Cairo is a pretty good-looking ball player.
Now batting, second baseman, number 6,
Miguel Cairo. Billy Williams, Hall of Famer. Veteran coach. Does a great job with the hitters beside. Jason Bates. 0 for 1. Came in as a pinch hitter in the 6th. 0 and 2 the count. Terry Adams, 1 out. Ball game top of the 8th. All Colorado, 4 to 1. The Cubs with a measly total of 3 hits. There's a smash up Adams' leg, the throw. Nice play by Ori. And he checks with Adams to see if he's okay. That's the important thing. He's all right.
Well, Terry Adams just waves away the dugout as this one off the leg of Adams, deflected right to Ori. Heads up play by Kevin Ori. It hits right off the heel of Adams. Ori comes across. It goes 1-5-3. And the best part about it, Adams comes away unscathed.
You know, the thing about Ori, see that play, he didn't have a chance to get set or to think about it, as he has on several wild throws. He had to pick up the ball and throw in a hurry, and he threw perfectly. So, bad throwing in these games is a matter of not talent so much as it is nervousness, rookie jitters. Here's a ground ball up the middle. Hernandez has it. Easy out. 1, 2, 3. Great pitching by Terry Adams. We're going to bottom of the 8th. 4 to 1. Colorado. Harry Caray with Steve Stone and Josh Lewin. As we go in the bottom of the 8th, Tim Sheridan, the booth next door, the public address announcer, does a fine job here. Wants to be remembered to his sister, Natalie, and family, who are Cub fans living in Winnebago, Minnesota. Remember, season tickets are on sale. Make Wrigley Field your summer home. A variety of season ticket programs are available, including full season, half season, and partial plans. For more information, call this number, 773-404-CUBS. Okay? 773-404-CUBS. Ask for Frank Maloney.
Robbie Beckett taking over for Colorado on the hill. He faces Doug Glanville to lead it off.
There's Glanville, a long drive, way back, might be out of here. Up against the fence, Glanville. Trots into second base with a long double. Glanville. 0 opens up the eighth with a double to left center.
Well, Doug Glanville bidding for a spot on this team and out of options. Conventional wisdom says that if he doesn't make it, someone is going to take a chance on this very talented youngster. Odds are that Doug Glanville, if he shows anything this spring, will probably earn a spot on this club, and he didn't hurt himself right there by rifling a double into left center field. Rudely greeting Robbie Beckett, who at 6'5", 225, the left-hander is a mighty imposing figure on the mound.
Here is Mike Hubbard. The Chrysler Plymouth game summary shows the Rockies leading 4-1. Service hit a homer for the Cubs. And the Colorado pitchers have allowed only 3 hits and only 6 base runners. Boy, that's unusually effective for the Colorado pitching.
You're right about that. This staff ERA was like the national debt last year. But they're looking for better things this year. And one of the candidates, Robbie Beckett, made 4 stops.
There's a fly ball in the left field, going to be caught, and it is. Pulliam took care of Hubbard's fly ball.
Last year, Beckett was at Portland, New Haven, Colorado Springs, and he surfaced in Colorado for 5 games with the Rockies.
Here is Robbie Jennings, who came into the game to run for McRae in the 6th. 1 out, 1 on. You gotta like this guy's hitting. He's got a great swing.
Well, Harry, if you like his hitting, then you gotta love the rest of his game, because he's probably the most accomplished out of all the outfielders all the way around. He throws well. He runs pretty well. He's solid in the outfield. He's hitting 400, and yet I sense the feeling that he's becoming almost a forgotten man in that left field derby.
Why would that be?
Why it is, I'm not sure, but I think that at least when the season started, they began to lean a little toward Brooks Kieschnick as far as looking for a platoon system. Brooks, #1 draft choice. Jennings has done everything pretty well and is stroking the ball well this spring and fields pretty well.
Here's the pitch, a strike call over the outside corner. I know they like Brent Brown, and for good reason. He's a fine ball player. Unfortunately, the position on the Cubs is not available.
Well, I think that Brant Brown, obviously as a left fielder, has some learning to do, and I'm not sure they want to see him learn it in the major leagues. I mean, we've seen a couple of mistakes he's made, and I think Brant is a magnificent athlete who will eventually play a very solid left field. I just think it's a lot to ask a guy who's a Gold Glove quality first baseman to make that shift to left field and make it at the major league level.
Jennings gets set. A couple of sisters are here. Fern Gomer and Marge Helgren of Fort Bryan, Illinois, and Moline, Illinois. Ground ball, nice play. Throw over to first base for the out. Husson, who just came into the ball game this inning, makes a nice play to his left and throws out Jennings.
And there's the veteran Jeff Husson, who's been around a long time. In fact, last year at Baltimore, Rochester, Frederick, Bowie, and Colorado Springs, making that play far to his left. So Husson, trying to win a job as utility infielder, would be his 7th year in the major leagues, and he's always had a pretty good glove wherever he's gone.
Miguel Cairo, hitting 400 in spring training with 6 out of 15. 2 out, a runner at second. The Cubs have had. There's a fly ball in the right center field, should be caught to retire the side. Well done. Falls down. Cairo fly ball at the end of 8. It's the Rockies 4, the Cubs 1. Harry Caray back in Mesa, where a big crowd, 12,511. The biggest crowd ever to watch an exhibition baseball game in Arizona. McCracken, who drove in the first run today, with 1 out of 4 now, leads off here in the 9th. Adams in his 2nd inning of work. Get well wishes to Bob Kreischer in the hospital in Port Richey, Florida. His son and daughter-in-law are here with the Southwest Airlines and the WGN-TV Sports Sponsors Group.
Harry, do you see the Cubs making any moves before the end of this spring? You think pretty much they're going to go with what they have here after, of course, they whittle down to get to the 25 men, or do you think there's going to be some help from other clubs?
I'm caught in a catch-22. I know that an organization is obliged to give their own talent, which they've developed up through the ranks, who've had great years at AAA, a chance to win a regular job. Having said that, I think Ricky Henderson, who is available, would fit into Wrigley Field like a glove. He can hit for power. He can lead off. Brian McRae has often said he's not a leadoff man. He loves to hit second. I think Henderson, with his speed and his power and his experience, would make this club immensely better.
How about the starting rotation? I mean, would you look to see if you could pick up a third or fourth starter somewhere, or do you think pretty much what you see is what you got?
Not only we see what we got, everybody else is in the same boat, what they see in that they got after McCracken.
Well, you got to think that Jim Leland and Bobby Cox, looking at their clubs, got to be pretty happy with their starting rotation. But just about everybody else is probably asking, where can I get another starter? Who's got one more starter I could pick up before the end of the spring? I just don't know how many are available.
I don't either. I think everybody needs pitching with the exception of Atlanta, as you mentioned. 2 out. Is Harvey Pulliam, the right fielder.
Terry Adams looks exceptional here today, and he's looked the best out of all the Cub pitchers. And it's no surprise because he looked wonderful most of last season. The youngster's got a great arm.
Here's the pitch a little bit high. Well, there's a couple here. Darling Ritter with a group from Plainfield, Illinois. 2 out, nobody on the pitch. You know, it's funny, isn't it? Here's the Florida Marlins, highly touted by everybody. They're 11-0 in spring training. Here, the Atlanta Braves, arguably the best team in all of baseball. They've won only 2 and lost 7 in spring training. Nobody, there's a foul ball down the third base line. Nobody would argue about either team's talent. But if a team that's a lot of question marks about, you lose 2 or 3 games in spring training, everybody gets panicky.
Well, if you have a team of veterans and you know you've got a very solid ball club, but I know that Bobby Cox and John Cheerholtz are looking at their team and they're mighty pleased with it. I don't think that they would care if they went 2-28. They know when the bell rings, you're going to put out a starting rotation with Nagel and Smoltz and Maddox and Glavine, and then throw anybody into that 5 spot that's going to be the envy of just about everybody in the league, perhaps except for Florida.
He struck him out, boy, oh boy. I tell you, Terry Adams really is impressed. 6 men in a row retired, 2 of them on strike. We go in the bottom of the 9th, 4-1 in favor of the Rockies. Harry Caray back in Mesa. Mike Dyer will come in to pitch for the Rockies, who lead 4-1. You know, and it's an amazing thing. I thought we were talking about the Dodgers haven't had a left-handed starter in a long, long time, since 1992. And the Cubs are not far behind. They've gone 421 games without a left-hander starting. But that will change this year with Mulholland, a member of the staff.
That's Todd Helton at first base, and he's the #1 prospect in the organization for the Rockies. There's Mike Dyer on the mound. Todd Helton out of Tennessee, 2nd-round pick of the Padres out of high school. Then he decided to play quarterback at Tennessee. And don't forget, after the game, the GMC game highlight featuring Josh Lewin on the 10th inning.
Here, Fastball. Dyer, who's done very well this spring. Valdez, or rather Dave Hansen, leading it off. Ball 2 wide. Well, the Cubs only 3 runs behind. Dyer, a big right-hander.
He's been around with a few clubs. He's kind of a side-wheeler. Has good movement on a fastball, runs away from the left-handers, and he's trying to make it as a non-roster player. They added Jerry DiPoto and Mark Dyer. Trying to shore up that bullpen, which was a bright spot for the Rockies last year. They've got a pretty good pen, although they've been overused at times.
Here's the pitch outside. Speaking of left-handers starting, Hibbert was the last one to start. But we forget about Jamie Moyer, who's still winning games in the American League. And percentage-wise, he was the best pitcher in the league last year.
You mean the son-in-law of Digger Phelps? How
Yeah,
could you forget
right.
about Jamie Moyer? I fixed him up. I acted like Cupid.
All right, Hansen is starter with a walk. And that's the way big innings get underway. Here's Valdez. Valdez, good left-hand hitter. A runner at first base. That's only the 8th base runner the Cubs have had all game. We're in the bottom of the 9th. Ball 1 low. Dyer and the catcher, Reed, goes out to talk to him. Boy, what a crowd. 12,511. Wow.
First time they've sold out this beautiful ballpark, and you couldn't ask for a better day. The weather this weekend has been spectacular. It promises to be more of the same this coming week. This is what people come to Arizona for. Good baseball and great weather.
There's the pitch swung on, a high pop fly. Left fielder coming in, makes the catch, and there's one away. William. The producer director of Cubs baseball for WGN-TV is Ernie Harris. Our associate producer, Mandy Cohen. Our technical director, Steve Feinberg. Our electronic graphics, Kathy Grimm. And our coordinator, Mark Shaken. And our executive producer, Bill Borson, whose lovely wife, Gina, is here with the sponsor she works for, Bill Wills and Associates. 1 ball, no strike.
I'm really sorry that Bill Borson couldn't make it on Sponsors Week here.
Isn't she a lovely lady?
Oh, his wife is lovely.
Yeah.
I'm sorry Bill couldn't make it because I take him for a fortune on the golf course.
Here's a long drive by Hernandez, way back, might be out of here, up against the fence. Here's a runner around third. He's gonna try, not gonna hold. They're gonna get in a mix-up between second and third. And he is tagged out. Oh, you know, the third base coach was waving him on, the runner on all the way, and suddenly decided to stop him. Meanwhile, Hernandez had also reached third base. And so that's a bad play on the coaching box as well as on the baseline.
I'm not too sure if he was given the go-ahead, to be honest with you, Harry. Hansen doesn't have great speed, and you're 3 runs down. There's no real reason to gamble. But Hernandez might not have looked up and seen Dan Radisson. So without having to see Radisson in the replays, I'm not sure exactly what happened. I do know that the Cubs lost a big run on the bases. They still trail by 2, but now they're 2 out.
I tell you, I happened to be watching Radisson all the way, and he kept waving him on. And then suddenly he changed his mind without noticing where Hernandez was and put the stop. The run scored, but Hernandez was easy pie between second and third, and he was tagged out. Let's pause for station identification.
This is America's #1 sports station, WGN-TV, Chicago.
There's the wild one all the way back to the screen.
Dave Clark, the last hope for the Cubs with 2 outs here in the 9th. Clark has always been a very good pinch hitter. And he's trying to make it off the bench for the Cubs.
4-2 now. Nobody on base. 2 out. Dave Clark, veteran, second go-around with the Cubs. This ball goes to short. The game should be over. Perez's throw, and the Rockies have defeated the Chicago Cubs by the score of 4-2. We'll be back in a moment. Harry Caray back at the ballpark. Here is the Budweiser play of the game for the Cubs, and that is Scott Service's first home run of the year, drilled into the left field terrace where everybody's enjoying the sunshine. Service's home run, the Budweiser play of the game as they lose to the Rockies 4-2. Our next telecast on WGN TV will be 2 weeks from today, March the 23rd, against the San Francisco Giants at 2 o'clock Chicago time. Harry Caray with Steve Stone, Josh Lewin and Josh Lewin will be along with the 10th inning show coming up in a moment. So long, everybody.
Chicago Cubs baseball on WGN. Brought to you by Budweiser, the king of beers, who reminds you friends know when to say when. The Stars of Chicagoland, your local Chrysler Plymouth dealer. The Discover Card, proud partner of the Smithsonian's 150th anniversary. Pepsi, Generation Next. Montgomery Ward. And by Southwest Airlines. With fares so low, you have the freedom to go places.